Morning.
How's everybody doing today?
Good.
Excellent, excellent. Unbelievable, that's what I always say. Unbelievable works both ways. Whether if somebody says to you, how's it going? How's business? And you say to them, unbelievable. And they go, really? But what does unbelievable mean, really, if you think about it? It could be, right, Eddie? It could be either way. It could be unbelievably bad, unbelievably good. So that's why when customers ask me, if somebody says, how's it going? They go, unbelievable. And they go, really? I go, you wouldn't believe it. Trust me when I tell you. All right, what we're going to talk about today is we're going to talk about leasing. Leasing 101. We're going to keep it simple, and yet leasing is a complex thing, and you know, a lot of people don't understand it. Customers are confused by it. Salespeople are confused by it. Nobody really seems to, how does this work? What is it? You know, is it just about a monthly payment? I don't own it. What's the customer's perception of leasing?
They're renting a car.
Mm-hmm. They're renting a car. Very good. And in the Spanish language, there is no word for leasing. Really. No. It's just rent. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So a lot of Latino customers, Asian, that's why they don't lease cars. Mm-hmm. Because in there, you know, a lot of them don't, especially the old school, like they don't, you know, they're like, and even old school American-born people don't, because of the perception of it. You know, it's like, I want to own something, right? I don't own anything if I'm leasing a car. But here's the reality. I always say, if you're financing something, when do you finally own it?
It's paid off.
When you make your payments, right? So let's call this picture here ownership. This ball right here, this is our goal. Let's call that ownership, right? If this is ownership and I'm leasing or I'm financing in a conventional sense, either way, what is my goal? To pay it down to ownership. So if I'm financing a car, when do I own the car? Right, I tell, you know, I said to the customer, Mr. Customer, Mrs. Customer, you think you own your car and you're financing it, right? Yes. Miss a payment. Don't make a payment and you'll find out who the real owner is, correct? GMAC will call up or Ally or, you know, whoever's going to call up, the owner of the car will call and ask you how you're doing. So, leasing and financing, really all leasing is, keep it simple with the customer, it's just another form of financing. That's all it is. The goal is that, well, I don't own the car, I can't trade the car. Well, yeah, you can. You can trade a car on a lease. When? At any time. Mm-hmm. Now, it may not work out for you. You may be upside down, right? A lot of people walk on a lot like this. They come up, they drive up on a lot like this, right? In this business, right? Mm-hmm. Upside down, right? There's the car, right? Upside down. What creates that negative equity thing? What creates that?
You owe more than what the car's worth.
You owe more than what the car's worth. Okay, you owe more than what the car's worth, but how does that happen?
You get
Customers,
a car you don't want.
You get a car you don't want?
Into the wrong car.
No, not necessarily. Think about it this way. Customer, what they can afford, or maybe they have no money down. Now they need a payment that's what? The lowest possible payment, right? So now they have to do what? Stretch the term all the way out. 72 months, right? 84 months, things like that. Now, the customer's driving the car, making payments, all of a sudden 2 years go by, they still have 5 years left or 4 years left, and now what do they want to do? They want to trade the car. So now they go back to the dealership, trade the car, and what do they find out?
Upside down.
How does it affect the salesperson? Let's say you're here working at Manhattan Jeep. Now let's say you want to stay at Manhattan Jeep, right? You're starting your career here, most of you guys, right? Iltar's been here a little while, right? Let's say you want to stay here. Let's say we decide not to fire you, and you know, I mean, you know, it could happen, right? But let's say Iltar wants to stay here. So let's say you want to stay in this business at this dealership for 3 years, right? Now, if you sell, let's say on average, 10 cars a month. Well, that's terrible. Let's say you sell 15 cars a month, okay? 15 cars a month, new, right? Now, if you put 80% of your customers in a lease, a short-term consumer lease, which is really all that's available right now. It's called a consumer lease. I'll get into that in a little bit, what that means. A lot of the concerns that customers have about leasing is the old type leasing, the old stuff. All right? This is what I tell the customer. It's a consumer lease. The consumer lease gives you all of the advantages, okay, of a conventional bank finance with none of the negatives. And I'll show you what I mean. Now, if you're, as for a salesperson, right, here we go. Take a look. As a salesperson, watch. You sell 15 cars a month. If you put 80% of them in a lease, so let's call that number, what would 80, so let's say 10, right? So let's say 10 of those customers. Now, if you put a customer in a 72-month, 75-month contract, how long is it going to be before they could buy another car from you?
5 years, 6 years.
Who knows, right? At least 4 years, probably, right? At least 4 years. Now watch. You put these customers into a 36-month, 39-month lease, right? We can trade those customers out at 2 years. At 2.5 years. Now, you sold 10 cars in this, right? So now let's go. Let's videotape ahead.
But
2 years. Go ahead.
excuse me, they will still be upside down after 2 years?
No. 2 years later, watch. 2 years later, right? Let's go from today, 2 years from now. Let's say you're doing 10 cars a month on a lease, new car lease. That's 120 a year, right? Mm-hmm. All right? So 120 a year. Now these, every month, 2 years from now, every month, your customers are going to be in a situation where you can get them out because all the manufacturers start having what they call pull-ahead programs, okay? So they give you incentives and different things like that. Plus, the dealership wants to get people out faster, so on and so forth, right? So the customer only has maybe 6 to 12 months left on their lease, okay? And now the banks, years ago, the banks would set higher residuals, okay, to get the lowest payment. The banks learned a lesson over the last 5 to 10 years. They learned that they were setting the residuals too high. So now they're setting the residuals lower, okay? They're lowering the interest rates because the overall interest rates are super low anyway. So, because what happens with the bank, think about it, when the bank sets up, what is a residual? Let's talk about that for a second. Let's get off course for a second. Let's digress.
It's the remaining of the...
What is a residual? What is the term residual? What does that mean, residual?
Remind of the bonds that you're going to finance.
Is it a negative perception or a positive perception? What is the word residual?
Statement stating...
Residual sounds like residue, something left over. Right. All right. So,
what's it worth after all your payments?
let me show you something here. Let's say if we're looking at financing here, okay? We're looking at financing, okay? Let's say it's a $30,000 car here. You're going to make all your payments all the way down to 6 years and pay it off, right? Over here, same thing, $30,000 car, right? You're going to pay it, only this time you're going to go 3 years and you're going to take a break. What the bank is going to do, the bank has a computer. Getting crooked on me. The bank has a computer, and the bank uses a computer, feeds all the information in there, and the bank is going to determine the minimum future value, not the maximum value, but the minimum future value on every vehicle, 3 years, 2 years, 39 months, 27 months, 29 months, whatever the term is. The bank has a computer that's going to guarantee for you the minimum value 2, 3, 3.5 years from now. Now, on a finance, they're not doing that. You don't get that benefit. On a mortgage, you don't get that, right? How many people lost their houses when the housing market flipped upside down? And people owe more money on their house. The first time in America that people are owing more on their house than it's worth. We're having negative equity in the real estate market. It almost destroyed the country. This is serious stuff, right? So, that's what makes leasing so powerful to the consumer, but it has to be explained properly. The number one benefit to leasing is not low monthly payments. Don't sell low monthly payments because you're going to lose gross. What you want to sell is the guaranteed future value, GFV. You want to sell the guaranteed future value. That is the residual amount. And you sell that as a benefit. Mr. and Mrs. Customer, just imagine you got a $30,000 car here, you got a $30,000 car here. Everything is the same, except in this agreement here, 3 years from now, you get to take a stop. You get, okay, to take a break and reevaluate your situation. You don't owe anything at that time, right? And 3 years here, what do you own? Nothing. What do you owe? You owe 3 more years on that car. What if that car was in an accident? Too bad. Right? What if that car was a gas guzzler and all of a sudden the gas prices go up again and it's $10 a gallon?
It's not worth anything.
What's going to happen to the value of that car? It's going to drop down, right? Does the bank say, oh, okay, Noel, let's see, the market changed, no fault of yours, we're going to give you a break. You don't have to make all those payments. That's not happening. That's fantasy island. It's not going to happen. Guess what? If you're in a short-term consumer lease, you get to take a break. Let's take a look. What is their real obligation on a lease? If the car is in an accident, what is the customer's obligation?
Return the car?
No.
Fix the.
Get the car fixed through their insurance company. Mm-hmm. If you finance the car's in an accident, what's your obligation?
Nothing.
Fix the car, get it fixed. Insurance company, same thing. Okay? So once the car is fixed from the insurance company, right? Let's say halfway through the lease, the car's in an accident. You see, when we appraise used cars, what is the first thing we do? We run a Carfax. And if we see the car has damage, what does that do to the value of the car?
Drop down.
Okay, excellent point. So with the technology today, you can't get away with a lot of stuff. A lot of the technology benefits the customer. Some of it doesn't. Okay? So now, I see on the Carfax that this car has been in an accident. Now, if this customer is in this finance and he's trying to trade out halfway through his loan, he's going to be upside down big time, right? Now over here, halfway through 3 years, he's got the end of his lease. But the customer says the car was in an accident, but you fixed it, right? Yeah. That's all you owe. Because it has a bad Carfax, the bank can't charge you more money. What does the term wear and tear mean? This scares customers. Wear and tear. What does that mean, wear and tear?
I mean, whatever rigors the car go through.
Normal wear and tear.